Hi Paula, thanks for coming on the show. As with all my guests, can you please give my listeners a 3-minute elevator pitch for Grubs Up?
Hi, thanks for having us on the show. Grubs Up is Western Australia's only human food approved insect-based protein business, and we produce, process and manufacture high protein insects for both the human food and animal feed market. So why insects? They're sustainably produced. They are 65% protein. They use minimal water. We use recycled fruit and veggies to feed them, and we house them in recycled commercial egg containers. So we try and have a closed loop economy or business as much as we can. Around the world, so much fish meal is wild caught to feed the aquaculture industry, and we really want to replace as much fish meal as we can to make the aquaculture industry more sustainable.
All right. So what is your biggest hurdle about educating the general public about the benefits of eating crickets?
Well, the biggest hurdle with the public to eat insects is usually, yuck, the ick factor, or we've never heard of that, or they don't realise that what the need is, why people should think about starting to eat insects, or we get the opposite where people understand that there's many pressures for change within the agricultural industry, that people can't just keep producing mass production, mass farmed products. So they have all this great information, and yet they're like, but why should we choose insect protein over fake meat or algae proteins, plant-based protein? So they're still having a bit of an ick factor, and you need to prove to us why we should or shouldn't eat insects. So to me, it's not necessarily a hurdle, it's about informing, engaging, educating people.
So I guess the best way to do it is just to prove it, just put them out in front of them and...
Yep, that's exactly right. So
give them the Pepsi test challenge sort of thing, yeah. That's
exactly right. And they say that people need to hear something 6 or 7 times to take it on board. So for us, they might have heard about us on the radio, seen us in the newspaper, seen us on a short video on social media, heard about us from a friend, see us at a science festival, or their kids come home with some information. And then when they finally get to see us at an event, they go, oh yeah, right, well, because I've heard about insects so much, I have to try it. So it's all about that brand awareness, that imaging, that education around it. And then we find that they don't have such an issue with trying the products. The other big thing with that is we never tell people that they should or they have to, and this is the future and you need to start thinking about it now. It's more like, this is a choice that we're presenting to you, take it or leave it.
Yeah, I guess because a lot of people do travel through Southeast Asia, especially Cambodia and Thailand, where they eat insects already. I guess that shock factor should be limited if they're well travelled, and
yeah, it's quite an interesting thing in terms of marketing. We get so many people say, oh, we tried these insects when we were on holidays in Southeast Asia. We had such a great holiday, I have to buy some to bring back that experience. So the product is actually about what they've experienced in the past or what they want to experience in the future, not just about the product itself and that it's sustainable and good for you.
Yeah. So what's driving your curiosity right now?
Oh, that's a great question. A few weeks ago, we had a call from a really high-end restaurant in Melbourne, and they wanted black ants, 1 kilo of black ants. So you can buy green ants in Australia, but there's not many places that sell black ants at the high-end restaurant market end. So we were curious to say, well, I have a theory that you should, a quote, you say yes and work the rest out later, from Richard Branson. So naturally I said yes, leave it with us and we will see what we can do. So over the long weekend I wild caught some black ants from our property and tried to harvest them and process them. So a lot of curiosity in terms of how do you make something so small, shelf stable, and in such a way that it can be posted across Australia that still remains safe for
Yeah,
human
right.
food.
Yeah. How much protein is the answer, by the way?
So with insects, it's a great question. With insects, you either get half the amount of insects are really high in protein, the other half are quite high in good fats. So mealworms, witchetty grubs, those sort of things are really high in good fats, and crickets, ants, and other like locusts and things like that are quite high in protein. So I wouldn't know how high in protein ants are, but they're quite acidic.
Oh, yeah. I can vouch that. When I was a kid, I keep swashing them in and it smelled like acid for about a week.
Yeah, and that's one of our biggest challenges with catching them is how do we harvest them without getting bitten.
Yeah. I suppose because the Aboriginals eat the honey ants too.
Yeah, that's right. Honey ants are really great, and we're a business based in southwest Western Australia. So when it comes to using ants and that sort of thing, especially the honey ants and green ants, if anything's out of Western Australia, we can, and it's sourced from private lands and it's already dead, we're allowed to import it into Western Australia, but you can't, through quarantine, you can't process something live through the border.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's quite an interesting challenge around how do you even source insects sustainably in a way that's good for the environment, good for Indigenous industry and safe for human food.
Oh, sustainable all around, I guess.
Yeah, we're aiming for it.
Did you have any failures on your entrepreneurial journey, and if so, what were the lessons learned?
Yeah, I think every entrepreneur fails in a way at times, but I like to learn from those failures. And it's really quite hard to even use the word failure, I guess. One of the challenges I came up with really early on in the business was I underestimated the potential interest and growth in the insect industry for human food, and therefore once we had human food approval, business got really busy really quickly, and I got business partners on board. And I got business partners on board for what they were really, really good at. However, we didn't discuss the business partnership as best as what we could have. So 2 years later, we chose to separate the business partnership, and I bought them out. And as the founder of Grubs Up, I now have the business back wholly and solely again. So it was just a process we worked through, and yeah, it's a good lesson to learn, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I was going to say one of the biggest failures we've had at times as well is you spend so much time thinking about decisions that need to be made and researching them, and after a week, a month, after 6 months or a year, you end up not making any decisions at all. And that's probably the most important lesson or failure we've had to learn the hard way, is just make a decision, even if it does fail or doesn't work out or does cost us a small amount of money. Try it and move on.
Yeah. So what does the future of food look like in your mind?
Yeah, the future of food for me is quite exciting, and that's for all sorts of food types and for both human and animal food or feed as well. So given that I come from an agricultural background, I try and think about where animal feed comes from and what the animals that we eat are eating, because it's quite an important step.
Absolutely.
But as a whole, the future of food is looking quite innovative. I think that we all should still eat as natural foods as possible, or as naturally derived as possible. So I'm not particularly a fan of the fake meat market or the lab grown meat market, and that's not necessarily because it's a competitor of ours. It's not at all, but it just doesn't sit well with me in terms of nature. But I'm really excited about the future of food in terms of the plant-based proteins that are coming out, the algae, some of the really cool bacterias, and of course insect protein market.
Yeah.
And I think future of food looks like exciting in the context of how can we make more natural nutraceuticals and pharmaceuticals from food, or how can our food source be really good for our health as well.
Okay, yeah, that sounds really good, eh? Yes. And finally, is there any questions I should have asked but didn't?
I always like to, ask, what's your favourite quote or anything like that. And ours is, if it feels right and it sits well, say yes and work the rest out later. Just always have a good crack at what it is. And even if you think it might, if you have a question you want to ask someone, or ask them to be a mentor or ask for advice, by not asking a question or asking for help and assistance, well, you're already getting nowhere. So by asking for it, you never know where that door might open to.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for coming on the show. You want to get straight to the point? Then consider podcast advertising. Did you know the quickest way to your brain is through your ears? That's why audio content is so powerful. Podcast advertising is cheaper than radio advertising. You've got a captive audience that matches the brand and is very cost effective. So inquire at 12hatsmedialab.com.au today to get your business out there to a much broader captive audience. This is the Captain of the 12 Hats signing out.